Record to the cloud. Yay. Now share. All right. Welcome everyone to the 20th KUDO community meeting. So we have quite a few agenda items, but I think Matt's going to start us off with his community update.
Yeah, that's cool. Okay, so we've got a number of US meetup offers that we need to align with speakers. Let me just get my my list up. So, 1 second. So we've got 4 potential dates for San Antonio. That's September the 12th, October the 10th, November the 14th, or December the 12th. And that is for, let me just get you the exact meetup. 1 second. San Antonio is, that is Kubernetes San Antonio. Then we have the Minneapolis Kubernetes meetup. And we've been offered a date there of September the 19th.
That might be possible for me.
9/19/19. That's a fun date.
Then Boulder, which we're still confirming the date, but I think Ken, you're in the frame for doing that one as well, right?
That's correct. I think we had it down for I guess 7.
Yeah, I have the organizer hasn't got back to me. I'll chase again tomorrow. And then we have 2 potential ones in Dallas Cloud Native, and then which they won't be running again until the 2nd or 3rd week in September, but we are penciled in for that one. And then the organizer of Kubernetes and Cloud Native North Dallas reached out to me and said, can we suggest some dates and put a potential speaker in? So that's kind of a bit of a chicken egg. We need someone to say, yes, I could be at that one, and here's the dates I could do before we can move that one forward.
The Kubernetes San Antonio one, what date was that again? In October, right?
There was September the 12th, October the 10th, November the 14th, or December the 12th.
Okay, so we had like 4 dates.
Yeah.
Say them one more time, please. Sorry.
September the 12th,
Mm-hmm.
October the 10th,
Mm-hmm.
November the 14th,
Okay.
or December the 12th.
They have interesting dates. All right.
And then Minneapolis, September the 19th.
Yep. And that was Ken, right? That said he would do it.
Minneapolis, yeah. Let me... yeah, so I'll so if Ken, I will reach out to the organizer and see if we can get an email thread on the go for that one.
If we group San Antonio and the 2 Dallas ones in the same week, I'm sure I could probably swing down to Texas.
That'll be cool. Yeah. Okay. So the
That'd be like the 9/12 in San Antonio, and then someone else somewhere around that in Dallas.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the question is whether we want to do two meetups in Dallas in the same,
right?
In the same week.
Even if we do San Antonio and one of the Dallases, I could probably manage that too.
Okay, so that would be that week of September the 12th, Tom.
Yeah, I guess that would work.
Okay, so let me do some reach out tomorrow, and I'll see whether I can make those align somewhere. Dallas Cloud Native, they basically said that they would come back to us when they had some dates. So we might actually be better going for the Kubernetes and Cloud Native North Dallas one, where the guy has said basically you suggest the date. They're actually the CNCF one as well. Let me just check whether Dallas Cloud Native is CNCF or not. No, it's not. Right. Okay. So how about we as we don't have a definitive date for Dallas Cloud Native, we'll focus on the other Dallas one, which is the CNCF one anyway, and we'll try and link up that one with San Antonio around that week of September the 12th.
Sure.
Okay.
Hey, Matt, it's Denny.
Hey.
I don't remember where is this file where you put all the conferences, but I think I've seen one meetup in Paris. I don't remember the dates, but if I'm available, I think I can take care of it.
Yeah, I think currently Nick is scheduled to do it.
Okay.
If you wanted to do it, have you booked travel or anything yet, Nick?
I haven't booked anything yet because October might be problematic for me anyway. So if Denis
All right, so it'd be better if Denis did it anyway.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what is the date? Because I have 1 week where I go.
Let me just pull up Jira. Sorry, I've literally just got home, so
the date is the 17th of October.
Okay, so that's fine. I'm okay.
Cool.
Can take care of that.
Excellent.
And let me know if you have any you track in Madrid or Milan or Roma, because I'm going there like every 2 weeks or something like that. So
yeah, Nick's just come back from
just come back from Madrid.
But I mean, like if we want to have like an update or whatever.
Yeah, cool.
I just submitted a talk for Open Infra Days Italy, Denis, which is Milan and Rome on 2 days apart. So it might be that that's something you could get involved in as well if we get accepted for that. Okay.
Yeah, because I also had like a guy who contacted us for Milan and Roma, but it was not for KUDO, it was for DCOS at the beginning. But the guy has 2 meetup group and was looking for talks. And I don't know if these are very popular. I have to take a look, but it's basically one is called Kubernetes Milano and the other one is called Kubernetes Cloud Native Roma. And he wants us to give talks in these meetups. But I think these groups are quite new. So
Kubernetes Milan.
So one is Kubernetes Milan is part of the Cloud Native, is part of the CNCF group.
Yeah, hang on a sec. Let me just.
This one is interesting. The one on Milan, sorry, Kubernetes Milan.
Yeah, I got it. Hang on a sec.
The one in Roma, the one in Roma, basically there were like only 35 people in the group, so I don't think it makes any sense. But the one in Milan is more than 300 members, and the guy is.
Hang on, let me just check our European spreadsheet and see why that didn't end up in our target list for Europe, or perhaps it did, and we just haven't heard anything from them. Yeah, so we had, perhaps when I ran this, they had less than 300 members, in which case they wouldn't have been picked up by the filter. The one we had for Milan was the Kubernetes and Cloud Native Milano, which has got 800 members and is also a CNCF group. I don't think we heard anything from them, did we, Nick? Yeah, you did that one, Nick, and just reached out via Meetup, so they haven't got back to us. So actually, that would be a good one to do, Denis.
Yeah, we have been contacted by the guy, Diego Zenga. You see, he's in the member organizer of the group.
Yeah.
So if you want, I can just reply on the email and introduce you to him as well. I can probably do it at the end, but then you just take.
Yeah, that would be great. I mean, I'm happy to go to Milan, or if you're available, I think it would be good to do something for KUDO in Italy. So yeah, that's great. Yeah, include me in an email thread and I'll add it to all our tracking stuff.
Sure, you'll be in it in a few minutes.
All right, is that everything, Matt?
Yeah, I don't think we've had any change on conference talks other than some more submissions. I don't think we've had anything accepted yet. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So I think we're good now for those meetups. Then I think between Tom and Ken, we can cover all those ones. So that's great. Thanks, folks.
Sounds good. My computer is messing up and my screen's completely black, but it seems to be like still sharing. Would somebody be able to take over the screen share from me and then click links for me? Maybe
I can do that. Yeah. 1 second.
Right.
Oh man. There we go. Should be any. Why is it not? Zoom. And oh, this will stop other screen sharing. Do you want to continue? Yes, let's see.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Oh, that fixed my Zoom.
Wonderful. You want to have it back?
Let's try it.
All right.
Okay.
Cool.
Yes, we seem to be okay. All right, so next topic. KubeCon CFP deadline is tomorrow, so if there's anything you want to get in, make sure you do that. I put up one that would be great if people want to comment on. Otherwise, I'll go ahead and submit it tonight. And it looks like Matt has one that's already submitted. Are there any others that I'm missing?
I'm working on one that Ken and Elena and Jared have all reviewed.
Okay.
About adding plans to Helm charts. Stuff.
All right. Sounds good. Anyone else have anything?
How do you plan on submitting something? I'll come up with something today or tomorrow. I know one that I'll do is not really KUDO related. It'll be around container security, seccomp, and Linux capabilities and such. I think the other one I might just do generic, like Kubernetes, extending the Kubernetes APIs through CRDs, just generic, but sneak KUDO in. You know.
Justin, I'm just reading I know I promised you some feedback on your proposal. It looks great. The only thing is, unless I'm missing something, that in the description you don't introduce what KUDO is. Do we think we need to have something in there that says this test harness comes from the KUDO project, which is blah, blah?
Yeah, that might be a good idea. Yeah, I'll add a little blurb in.
Yeah, but other than that, it looks great. I think that's a really good submission.
Hey, Justin, relative to that comment, it depends on which direction you want to go. I could see a lot of value in just talking about how hard it is to test Kubernetes applications and components, and in particular operators, and then use KUDO as an example of what we've done, and or I could see taking it just completely Kubernetes test harness. So I could see value in being generic and then using what you've created as the example of what to do.
All right. Well, you gave me something to think about.
I also think that being more general will give you more opportunity to be accepted, in my opinion. But
that was a little bit of what I was thinking. All right. So next topic is docs. Sarah, do you want to take it over?
Yeah, I don't have a lot of time, but I have been looking over the docs. They look fantastic. You guys have done a heck of a job. I think there's just room for a minor edit pass, and I want to get a sense of the community. Is it okay if I jump in and do some of that? I'm not obviously not going to touch any of the code. I'm just talking about, formatting, editing, spelling, maybe a little clarity here and there.
Yeah, any help is appreciated. Awesome, thanks.
Okay, you guys have a lot of good examples there, and I think we could probably use more. The more examples you have, the more examples you guys create, the less writing I have to do. So I think some of the discussion I've seen on here for the KEPs and some of the other use cases, I think would be very valuable incorporated into the docs. Not all of them are in there. Do you guys have anything that you need from me? Anything I can contribute in addition to that?
I can think about the operator repository. We have there a folder called docs that is just basically templated. So
Yeah,
maybe thinking more about adding documentation there, how to develop operators and write tests for them and so forth. And just like there's already some stuff on the KUDO dev page about, for instance, the test part. Maybe that can be added there as well. Or
okay, I'll look into that.
And I'm working right now on pulling the docs into the for each operator into the main site under a framework section. So those will automatically get added to the site. So the more docs we have for the more frameworks, for as many frameworks as possible, the better.
Okay.
Or operators. I can't figure out my framework versus operator nomenclature there, but yeah.
Okay. All right.
I've also been trying to think about how I can improve the testing documentation. So maybe we can talk about that.
Okay. We can probably offline that.
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
Okay.
All right.
I wasn't on the agenda, so thank you for giving me the time. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Anything else that you want to talk about?
I have another meeting, so I'm going to have to cut out now. But I appreciate it, and I'll be back at the next meeting. And I'll be probably talking to some of you guys on Slack.
All right. Thanks, Sarah, for joining.
All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All righty. So next one up, we did a 031 release the other day, I believe. I think Elena cut that. I don't know a lot about it. So if someone else wants to take over this section, that does know more about it.
I can talk about it. The big thing was the reason we cut it was for the 515 that fix installed non-default namespace. We did get some nice kubeconfig stuff as part of that you could arguably constitutes a patch release since it doesn't constrain anything more. But the real reason there was everything was ending up in the default namespace because of some refactoring we did. And now when you go to install operators and instances into different namespaces, they work as expected without just ending up in default. It was kind of a fun regression, and thanks to Zane for identifying that pretty early after 030.
Was the 031 a cherry pick on top of 030, or was it a re-release of master?
That's a good question, actually. I need to check with Elena.
I think it was master.
Okay, yeah. I mentioned to her cherry pick. So if it was off of master, we should, you know what, let's reevaluate our patch release process, maybe.
There was talk of a KEP.
Okay, awesome. So let's track opening a KEP on that then, because I can't commit to any more KEPs right now. Everyone is well aware as to why. But let's track a KEP on that. I was under the impression it should have just been 515 with that commit, but if it wasn't, then let's just track and keep an eye on it and make sure we're doing cherry picked commits. Actually, Kubernetes, someone from Kubernetes just posted the Kubernetes cherry picking guide, so that might be something we should look into and see to what level it's worth emulating them.
I'm looking right now, and it was not off master. There's a branch now, releases slant 0.3. So everything off of that would be increments off of the 0.30 release.
Okay.
And it's not off master.
So ostensibly an 0.32, which is the next topic, would be off of that branch, right?
Yeah, and we would need to, assuming that there's something that landed on master, it would need to be added onto that branch.
Okay.
And released off of it, off a tag. So I have something to talk about though regarding that features of that release, if it's time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the kube config, we have inconsistencies here that I would like to understand and make sure that we're moving. Well, I would love consistency. So we do have a flag for setting the kube config for install, but we don't have it for other things. So my question is, do we want to always rely on the environment variable as the configuration if it exists? Or do we take the flag and should we add flags to all the other CLI commands, or should we remove it from the install? That's what I'd like to discuss.
Can we add the flag to the root command?
Exactly. Yep.
Or that. Yeah, that would be. That's actually what I would hope as well.
Yeah. Go over. Yeah. That's what we. Yes. You know. It makes me. This is something that I just want to rant on this just for a moment, and I know we're recording in the middle of the community meeting, but just give me my 15 seconds. Like, I wish kubectl plugins would just pass the environment down to its plugins as an environment variable, so we could just soak that up, right? Like, it is almost a travesty, and maybe when I'm back from leave or whatever, like I'll push on this with the kubectl team, like that plugins should just inherit the environment, right? Instead of every plugin re-implementing the environment. This shouldn't be a kubectl KUDO problem, unless you were to use the binary by itself. So that's my soapbox. But yeah, I'm all in favor of root command.
All right. It sounds like we're on the same page. I'll write up an issue for the change.
Sounds good. The one question I had on the release is, did we have that automated, or did we do a manual release? And then also, did we make sure that we updated like the references in the docs and such?
Yeah, so this is a good time probably for review and make sure that everybody's aware. We currently use Go Releaser as the release process. So there is a configuration for that, which pretty much automates everything from a dev box. We also have a Circle CI job that is the release job, and it is triggered off of a tag. So if it sees a tag, it tries to run. It currently could do all the things that we do off a dev box. It currently does not have the credentials in order to push the things it would need to push. So it would need to be able to talk to GitHub. It would need to be able to talk to Docker Hub and to do those pushes. So we probably ought to either remove that or rectify that, and then the release would literally just be tag this and magic happens. Now, with that said, whenever we do a major release, it's been tradition, because tradition is two, that we'll go back and modify. There's automatic documentations on the release for GitHub. If you go under the GitHub releases, it has a bunch of documentations that stashes there. We have typically modified that to highlight specific things. So we usually add some content beyond what Go Releaser provides.
Yeah, and we also manually, and I noticed we did not do this, we right now manually update the docs deployment.yaml file to point to the latest image version. And maybe that's something we can auto-generate a PR on for the doc site in the future.
Yeah, that would be good.
Or move to, once we have kubectl, KUDO, and init, that goes away too, right?
To add to this just a little bit, to add to this a little bit so that everybody is enabled. It literally is, go to your, if you go to the KUDO repository and look at releases.md, it's all documented. And all it really means is find yourself on your dev box at a certain branch, tag it, push that tag, and literally invoke Go Releaser. And that's, for a release, that's it. That's all of it is automated for the most part.
Sounds good. Okay, so there was talk of an 0.3.2 release because we patched a bug that was blocking Fabian. Was there anything else that needed to get into that one?
Yeah. So the question is, if it's really blocking me, do we actually need it? I believe we would need it. In the zookeeper validation, or in the zookeeper operator, what I've added was a validation phase on the one, Tom, that you and Elena also did, just building upon that. When I did the Flink demo. And so what happened there was, every time I installed my Flink demo, it needed first Zookeeper to come up and then Kafka. And so Kafka was constantly crashing because the service discovery for Zookeeper wasn't working well. So this validation phase just finishes once the discovery works actually fine. And so that is what this PR that's currently the only open one in the operator repository is actually doing. And so while we did that, we noticed when we run the Zookeeper tests that they were actually failing because of an immutable field when we want to deal with the what was it, the template spec couldn't change something because it was a job. And so we wanted to delete this step, but that for some reason, although we set the Boolean to true, wasn't working. And so that's the whole reason why this would maybe be 032 and would unplug that behavior. So if that is wished or needed or okay for everyone, I would vote for making a 032 among other maybe fixes that we have already and cherry pick those. But maybe after we read through the new Kubernetes cherry pick guideline. But, yeah.
I think it makes sense. I think anything affecting a stakeholder is worthy of a point release, especially this early in the project, right? So, ship it.
Okay.
Did anybody else have any bugs that needed to get into that one?
We should probably, since we're going to cherry pick, we should probably comb through and make sure that if there's any bugs that we've captured them and add them in.
And then capture the right format for specifying these bug fixes should go into a minor.
Yeah, and then who wants to do that release?
I can do it.
And I would be shadowing you while you do that?
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
Okay. And then next up is the KUDO 040 roadmap. We had a meeting about this a couple days ago, so I figured we should talk about it with the community.
Yep, and that meeting was on the public calendar. We'll do a better job at announcing that. So we have a couple things that are tied to KUDO itself and a couple things that we want to finish in this, I guess, time life cycle. And I'll split those two things out. So the things we need to do, and actually I realize this is the third one down, KUDO init, is actually written wrong. So just to walk through them real quick, I'm going to walk through first things that will land into the code base itself, the operator itself. Third down, we have KUDO init to initialize a new operator. That should actually be written kubectl KUDO init to install KUDO and its RBAC and its CRDs, as opposed to the skeleton generator, which will initialize an operator. I don't know. I'm just tired, I guess, when I wrote those two. So splitting, like I'll update the third one down to include that. So the fourth one down, skeleton generator, we've had this as a KEP for a while. It's been raised that it'd be really useful to have and a pretty small investment for potentially a decent gain. And this is all about generating out a skeleton for an operator. And we may want to not include some things, but just get enough to where we can init the basics for an operator and let people go so that they're familiar with our format, include tests, stuff like that right out of the box so people can get going without reading as much of the documentation just to create some files. Beyond that, we have the implementation of KEP 13, which is getting in the engines and being able to deploy something rendered with Helm. And I'll let Tom should speak more to this if you'd like to, but rendering something that was created in Helm using KUDO. This sets the stage for extensions coming in 050 and gets all the base packages in while adding some nice functionality around getting a base deploy play and phase step for a Helm chart. And then beyond that, we have a dry run and outputting as YAML. And this is to improve our GitOps story and being able to generate out an operator, OV, and instance so that someone could check this all in and put this in a repository instead of using the CLI. I agree with Elena that the CLI should be a great experience, but I don't think I don't think these two experiences are competing, right? Someone wanting to use a CLI versus GitOps, and we can make both great, and so we should easily support both, and that's what that is attempting to embody there. And then the last thing tied to the code would be a linter. Elena proposed this. We're going to spike this, and then if needed, we're going to start to cap it out of what a linter should do. But we want to check for things like unused templates, make sure every named template exists, validating parameters, and then as part of that too, making sure that all the implicit execution state things are correct. So a little bit of static analysis here. I expect this to go on for a couple versions, but getting some form of a linter in now to assist people building operators with that. And then just in this time cycle, was there a question?
Yeah, I have a quick question about because this is like the core KUDO roadmap, but what about the roadmap of the Kafka framework? Do we have like a line that with that? Like when we will have this? Oh, it's later, right? Sorry.
No, that's a good question. We should add that. I will chat with Zane and figure out what we want to do with that. So let me note that on the community meeting doc here in a few, and that's absolutely something we should do. You're right.
I think it would be cool because then you can say, okay, this feature of the Kafka operator depends on this core feature that's coming at that version, this kind of thing.
Sure, no, totally. I absolutely agree. Let me pull up the community meeting doc after I'm done talking, and I'll add that. Thank you, Denny. I lost screen share, Justin. Are you?
Same here.
Yeah, the same thing happened to me. Can somebody steal my screen again? And then
yeah,
they'll fix it for me again.
Let me pull it up here.
While we have this pause, one of the things discussed for 040 was output to YAML, which I fully support. This is another area I would like to have some consistency on. I just ran into this literally while I'm setting up the SOAP cluster where I wanted to look at the version of something. I think all of our output from the CLI by default should be human readable, but they all should have the option of output of JSON and YAML. So I would go beyond at some point. I'm no commitment for 040, but necessarily. But I would like to see the movement of controlling output as an expectation of all CLI commands that have output.
And also having the the JSON pass option that you have in kubectl is amazing. So you can get from the output easily without having to do a pipe GQ something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, is that the JSON path one?
Yeah.
I'd have to look at that. I was looking to pipe to GQ, or JQ, but if there's something else.
JSON pass is really popular in kubectl. Like all the examples you see, it's like, okay, if you want to get the ID of a pod, then you do a kubectl get, pods -L with a label, and you do JSON pass, and you get where you want in the JSON, and you just get the ID, for example. So JSON pass is really used everywhere in kubectl.
Yep, agreed. Okay, yep, I noted that, and we'll make sure that gets. We open up an issue for that and make sure we tie it to that feature. One other thing I forgot. This is a big one. I think this is going to help our EDE story a lot. Test harness being able to use the kubectl KUDO CLI. What we've talked about heavily was splitting out integration and end-to-end testing, and we came up with criteria for that we should write down. And this will help with the ETE story being a lot more robust, or at least adding a new dimension of how far we can back out from KUDO when running these tests. And then things that don't touch the code base itself that we want to complete in the 040 timeframe. Prow integration is coming. I saw the instance. It looks awesome. Super excited. And then getting that, like I said, that EDE testing and starting out a test grid with a static GKE instance and kind going as part of that, as well as I am committed to getting as much docs as I can before I go on leave, before passing it over. So I stood up the staging site for that today for the docs improvements, and we'll continuing to be iterating on that with Sarah's help. And I mentioned this in the channel, but I plan on the staging branch just to be pushing like crazy unless someone really wants to review my CSS, and I don't see many hands going up, so I will just continue doing that. So that makes up O4O. You know, we also talked about it. Like, there's some things in here. Whoops, we don't need to go look at my GitHub. You know, such as the KUDO extensions for KUDO operator. If we end up ahead of schedule, we always reserve the right to pull in stuff from 050, or we reserve the right to release 04 early. But our general commitment for that is every month. So we're right now tentatively planning on this for August 2nd as our ship date. So that's it for 040 for me. Do you want to take back over screen share, Justin, or do you want me to keep this up?
If you could keep it up, because my Zoom is still being wonky. I can see your screen share, but the rest of everything else is frozen. So, okay. So then next up is update on open PRs. We should probably just go through this pretty quickly. I don't know if there's any that anybody actually wanted to talk about. No. All right. So let's skip to the next one. Those all look pretty new. So update on pending KEPs. Looks like KEP 12 got marked implementable, which is the operator extensions. Is there an update on that?
It's slated for 050, so work hasn't started on implementation yet.
All right, so next up we have KEP 13, which I believe is provisional still. So any update there?
Nope. I have to.
All right.
I have to submit a PR to put that into implementable.
Gotcha. All right. Next up we have the Helm chart KEP. Sorry to keep
I think that's 13.
tagging you, Tom.
Oh, ignore this for now. This is
okay.
Probably all going to get scrapped. This was the exploration of converting a Helm chart into a KUDO operator, which isn't going to be possible, and led to the development of KEP 12 and 13.
If you go to the bottom of that screen, the bottom of that pull request, Tom and I spent some time discussing it 2 days ago, and I documented what to expect with this PR essentially. But that's why it's also placed on hold.
Alrighty. Next up we have mine, which I think we'll probably end up closing. Marston pointed out that Prow has tooling that actually does a lot of what we want to do here. So I'm going to check that out and see if it'll work for us. And if so, that will save us some coding.
Is that part of that Bosco service?
Yep.
Or tool here? Okay, cool. Oh yeah, it's in test infra. I see. Okay, cool. Yep.
Yeah, so that would be great. And then diagnostic templates.
I don't know if I mentioned this one. I would love an owner for this. This is all about support bundles and potentially centralized metrics and alerting for 050 or beyond. But really this KEP is about figuring out when I'm having an issue with an operator, allowing the framework developer to define, or the operator developer to define what matters. So what configuration to pull out, what logs to pull out, what metrics to pull out of the thing, container state, etc. Arbitrary commands to run. There's a lot of good prior art for this, but it's really about building a toolkit for operator developers to have a single point of their users interacting with the tool to get this information out. So if someone would like to own this, I'll be able to probably pick it back up in mid-August, to be honest. But if someone is dying to own this, I encourage someone to go pick this up and run with it, because I think this will be a really useful thing for people actually being able to use KUDO operators in production.
You know, I think it's a good point, because when I was like having the issue with the persistent volume claim on my Kafka thing, I was lucky because I was having this cluster, I was having Elasticsearch, so I could just search for Kafka and get all the logs from everything basically. So that was okay. But at that time, I realized that we have this, this plan output, that tells us like how the deployment is, so where it is in the deployment. But that would be useful. I don't know if it would make sense, but I think it would be useful that in this plan, you would have like a verbose option that would show you all the objects created by each step. You know what I mean? Or modified by each step. So at least as a first step, you could say, okay, I know that this step where it's currently stuck, it is creating PVCs, and then it is creating deployment, and you know what I mean? So basically then you could go, okay, let's go to the logs of these PVCs and let's go to the logs of this deployment. And then perhaps after you get that, then you can go to this second step where, okay, now that I know what are the objects involved, perhaps I want to have like a log deployment, and that gives me the logs of all of these things in one place.
Yep, I like it. I think these are different than what I'm looking than what I wrote this for. But I think we could either include it or make issues for each of these. I think these would be great to like enhance our CLI with both of these, and I agree totally. I think that's it for that cap.
I don't know if I have the time to own that, but I would. It has some overlap, or I would care about it in the context of testing and wanting to make sure that we pull the right things for that. So I would be willing to help out designing that.
I don't know. But I guess what I'd like to see with that cap is the origin of that cap, as I recall, was that the marathon team had a list of things that we made as a requirement to work on issues, because they were the same. We essentially needed the same things over and over and over again from customers and users. And so we created an expectation in order to fill out a bug or to have it worked on under a certain SLA. We would require these things. So I don't know. I guess I kind of see this cap as maybe we could start with something simple, like we can make it implementable by saying these are the things we expect today, and then we could also extend the cap into, well, here's the things we want to add to KUDO in order to enable this behavior. Like I should be able to go KUDO cuddle diagnostics, and it would just pull all the logs and everything together and allow me to upload that to Jira or an issue or to whatever the repository is at that time. So
Red Hat has a tool like that, their SOS report that they provide and provides
exactly.
export.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess what I'm suggesting is, maybe there's more. We keep having a conversation that has different levels of scope, and I would love to let's stair step this into, let's make this implementable today with something simple that people know what to do when an issue comes up, and then let's do the other things. I want to do them just like everyone else, I imagine. But
let me take your analogy and make it really terrible real quick. Do you think that KUDO itself and the operators are on the same staircase for that? So is KUDO Kafka a factor? Is KUDO Kafka another stair in that, or is it separate? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, here's what's happening from my perspective. One, maybe we don't even know enough. Let's put what we know now so that we can say, here's what we expect. We already have people coming to us in Slack, which is wonderful, saying, I have an issue, what do I do? And then there's a flood of ideas of well, look at this and look at that and look at this. Well, two things should happen. One is just we should have an FAQ that includes, if you're having issues, look at this, look at that. The other thing is if there's a required amount of things we need to know, we can assume, one, we need to know what version of KUDO it is. We need to know, like, what's your plan and where are you stuck in a plan? Has the plan completed? We need to know, all we're looking for is enough information of, is this a KUDO thing, a Kubernetes thing, or an underlying service thing? And then we can get better. Like, it's going to evolve, I think. But right now, if someone comes to us with an issue, what they say to us is, this doesn't work. And we should say, as part of saying this doesn't work, here are the things we have to have. That was what the initial KEP was, from my perspective.
Yeah, and I don't even think that we already have a way to get this information today. Because basically, when I was stuck, as I said, like I was trying, like, okay, let's do a kubectl get instances or whatever. Then I would say, okay, let's get describe plan execution or whatever. And then you can see that in the plan execution, you have different phases. But then that's it. I mean, like I was stuck. I don't know, perhaps there was a way, but it was not clear to me about, okay, how can I see what is supposed to be done in this phase, so that I can take a look if the objects are created or not. And so I knew I was expecting because I already used this Kafka operator, but otherwise, perhaps it's already there somewhere, but it's not even clear to me about how I can get this information.
Yeah, totally. There's no question we need to improve things. The thing that we are looking for initially, in my opinion, is how can we shorten the feedback loop? How can we have, instead of like back and forth 3 times in order for an engineer to start to diagnose something, we could reduce that to 1 trip, right? That's, from my perspective, what the goal was.
Yep, totally agree. Okay. Then I think maybe we expand the scope of this, because right now the scope of the KEP itself is just operators. But let's expand the scope and then come up with a plan in this. Depending on my timeline, by Monday, Tuesday, I can have the summary motivation goals of this rewritten to a point that encompasses all of that, and then have our current summary motivation just be a step to the final goal, right? But in lieu of that, I think we would take KEP 11, expand it out, take its current operator-centric model, and turn it into something that is usable for the whole debugging lifecycle, not just for not just thinking about ISVs trying to debug Kafka, but ISVs trying to debug Kafka and KUDO and all the way up to the KUDO team trying to debug as well, right? And I think that's maybe where this KEP is a little short-sighted in that. Does everyone feel good about that? All right, cool. Justin, back to you.
Yeah, so then the last one I just want to touch on, I was going to update KEP 4 with details about what we want to do with PROW. That's the testing infrastructure KEP, so that seems appropriate to me. And that'll probably be a lot of just replacing Circle CI with PROW, and then probably need to write up some stuff about our PR workflows.
Okay. One question I had for you on this was, do we plan to maintain our own fork of PROW for any reason? I have my own axe to grind on that, but do you see anything right now that would require that update?
We have not had to patch anything yet.
Okay. My only question is, and I don't know how modifiable this is out of the box, like with the plugin configuration, but we don't use the same labels as Kubernetes, and we don't have SIGs. Or rather, we have a singular SIG if we wanted to apply that model, right? So I guess I would like to know how Frau operates with one, custom labels or our own set of labels, and two, there's no notion of SIGs, and does that require adjustments in the plugins? Having seen what plugins you have turned on now.
Yeah. So far I've been using it on a couple of small repos, and I haven't had any kind of like SIG related tagging. You can pretty much go with just the the approval tags, and I think they have some other stuff like tagging the size and stuff. So it's pretty flexible, and we can do what we want. So I think we can come up with something that works for us.
Okay, yeah. Cool.
Yeah, so expect that cap in the next couple of days, I guess. All right, so anything else on caps? Nope. All right, open discussion? Oh.
Yeah, it's Danny. I'm sorry, I just want to come back to this discussion about the diagnostic, and so I was at the same time we were discussing, I was trying to go through, okay, what would be the natural step to go and find what is the issue. And I was looking at, as I said, like at the instance, and then I was trying to look at the plan execution, and then I was looking at, okay, what are the next objects? So I was looking at all the CRDs that we have, and I was trying to understand, like, what is the reason why we don't also have then like a CRD for a phase, a CRD, you know what I mean? Like, so then you could go to get information about the phase, and then you could perhaps see what objects are created by this phase or things like that. Is there a logic behind that, or it's just me who... I don't know if I'm really clear about what I'm just explaining, but...
Yeah. Will you explain it one more time? I'm sorry.
So yeah, I was saying, like, if I was looking at debugging, I was looking at, okay, let's do a describe instance, and then I find out that there is a plan execution. So then I do a describe plan execution, and then I find out that there is like phases, So like all these objects that are basically built in KUDO. But then I was looking, okay, is there like an object that is called phase or step, And I was expecting to have CRDs that correspond to these things, Like
yeah. Okay. Yes, I'm with you. Tom and I have discussed this in the past. Go ahead.
No, it's because I was thinking that if we would have CRDs, perhaps there is another solution, but if we would have CRDs for that, then you could say, okay, next step is that I do a describe of this phase or of this step, the one that is currently failing. And then I would be able to see the objects that are related to this phase or this step, and then I could go in the logs, But because there is no CRD like that, then after the plan execution, I'm kind of stuck.
Okay, that's good feedback, because so Tom and I worked some form of this out back in our initial workings on the dynamic CRDs cap, and we want to turn potentially all of those things into CRDs that are dynamically generated. We were waiting on Kubernetes 1.15 lane to do that, and now we can do it. So I would expect those. I would consider those, from your perspective, enhancements that are coming by virtue of us implementing dynamic CRDs. You'll have those CRDs. Like I am of the mind that every concept in KUDO should be represented as a CRD. So we'll get there. And you might be missing resolution right now. And I want you to keep like hitting on us with those missing things so that we keep prioritizing those things. Because in my opinion, like, yes, you should have a phase and you should have a step CRD, even if that like doesn't match the operator developer experience, to make that sort of debuggability a lot easier. So I totally agree with you. And it's coming. There's no reason it's not there other than we were waiting on Kubernetes to make it available. Yeah, and we were waiting on dynamic CRDs to make it available.
Yeah, and it's 1.15, right?
Kubernetes 1.15, yeah, is like that. That's when the feature set in Kubernetes landed for us to be able to do that and return to the HackMD document which I'll put in this community doc where Tom and I were talking about breaking out these as objects for each individual operator.
Okay, sounds good. And waiting for that, I will try to dig a little bit more in my problem, so that I try to find a way to debug it without the logs or without going through external logs, perhaps using labels or stuff like that. And I will tell you if I find any good ways.
That sounds good. And you know, if you don't mind, like log down everything that's making it hard for you to debug, because we will turn around and fix that as fast as we can. Because like if you can't even use the operator, then there's obviously a problem, right? So
yeah, especially that I know a little bit the logic behind it, so that should be easier for me, let's say.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. And do you want me to put the feedback somewhere in particular? In this one, like in this cap 12 or no, whatever. Like, no, what was this cap?
Let's start out with every issue you find. If you want to contribute to a cap, yes, that sounds great. Like add it to the cap. Also open an issue so that we can link we even in your cap PR, link it back to the issue it's fixing. So let's track issues and then any PRs to the cap you have as fixing that issue. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It sounds like we're opening two issues for the same thing, but I want to have a good search of, like, I want people to be able to go search for an issue and see we're addressing it in a cap. If that.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'll try first to kind of draft what we can do today without changing anything. And then if I don't find any way, then I will use that to open new issues when I think that can be easier. But at least perhaps I will try to draft something that in the meantime can help debugging with what we have, you know. No worries.
So it's 11:01, so we should probably move on from this discussion and take it offline if we need to.
Yep.
Okay, so last thing, open discussion wrap up real quick. Anyone have anything? Alrighty, well, I think Nick is leading the next meeting. And if there's nothing else, let's call it.
Awesome.
Awesome. Thank you, Justin, for hosting.
Yeah, thanks, Justin. Cheers, all.
Thank you. Oh, there's one more thing. Community shepherd for the week. Fabi's done it 2 weeks in a row. We're still working on defining the role and figuring that out. Are there any volunteers for next week?
You don't have to do that crazy YouTube cut that I did. Scroll down to the 19th one. And if you have any question there, just click on the minutes and you see exactly what was discussed when and where. That's cool. It's probably not what that role should do.
Sounds good.
I'm happy to step up for the next week.
Okay.
Cool. Yeah. Ruled. Okay.
Okay, take care, guys.
Bye.
Cheers.
Bye, everyone. Cheers.